Hello, everyone. Welcome to Impact Gaming Center. It's Tuesday night, everyone's favorite night of the week. We got Pokemon, and today we actually have a little bit of a special Pokemon matchup for you today. It is Pokemon Day's celebration here at Impact. I know a lot of places are doing it on Saturday. Impact is choosing to do it today because that's when our locals is. So we're going to have a good old time here celebrating Pokemon, enjoying Pokemon as a whole. 30 years together here with Pokemon. It's such an insane thing to say that Pokemon has been around for 30 years, man. 30 years of honestly some of the best moments of our childhood, some of the best moments of other people's childhoods. We've got over 1,000 Pokemon now. It's crazy to see where the franchise has come, where it has gone. It's just beautiful seeing Pokemon still being played in 2026, originally coming out in Japan in 1996. We've got a special one here for you, though. We've got Anthony on the right playing that Pult Ghost deck, and we've got Ben on the left playing Mega Box. It looks like Ben's camera is a little off, so we might have to fix that here after this round one. But it looks like Ben started off with Mega Absol on the bench with a Darkness Energy, that Petron in the active slot, and a Risky Ruins in play. Anthony starting off with a Duskull in the active slot and a Dreepy on the bench, using that Dawn on turn one, being able to search his deck for a stage 1, a stage 2, and don't forget a nice little basic Pokemon to get his deck set up, choosing to go with that Dreepy, most likely choosing a Dracloak. And then the stage 2 is going to be a little bit of a question mark. Are we going to go get Dusclops or Dusknoir, or are we going to go get Dragapult? And we are choosing to get that Dragapult out of the deck, ready to go into the hand for some subsequent turns here. I think Anthony's a little off to a slow start. You kind of want to get into that Badoo turn one. Go ahead and Itchy Pollen, set up that item lock. Go ahead and make Ben's deck kind of falter under this item lock. We see that Ben's hand is not very big. I think the Pokegear is going to be Ben's out next turn, trying to get himself a supporter turn. We see Anthony bench another Dreepy, the one we saw off of the Dawn. Going to go ahead and take 2 damage counters with that Risky Ruins in play. Basically says that anytime a Pokemon comes to the bench that is not a dark Pokemon, it takes 2 damage counters. We've seen cards like this in the past with Team Magma Secret Base, basically saying that if it's not a Team Magma Pokemon, it gets damage counters. We've seen Gatejaw Bog, when it comes into play, it gets 2 damage counters. Risky Ruins is slightly different than those because this gets around a Nest Ball. So if you Nest Ball for a Pokemon, it still takes the damage counters off of Risky Ruins, which is not the case with things such as the Gatejaw Bog and that Team Magma Secret Base. Ben using that Pokegear here, trying to get a supporter for turn that is not that penny, and it looks like Ben hit that Lily's Determination, arguably the best supporter we've ever received. Basically lets you shuffle your hand into your deck, and you draw either 8 cards if you have not taken a prize, or 6 cards if you have taken a prize. So one of the best draw cards we have legitimately ever seen in this game, letting you to set up your deck in ways that probably weren't previously imaginable from a draw perspective. We have research, but research is a little bit crippling sometimes, depending on what deck you're playing. You would prefer not to discard resources. So Lily being able to be a huge inclusion in a lot of decks in this format, and post-rotation is going to easily be the best supporter that we have, especially with research rotating. Ben here getting solid 8 cards. We see that Latias, unfortunately, don't have a way to attack this turn, which I think is the biggest thing that Ben would have liked to see. Anthony not with the best setup, only the double Dreepy Duskull start. You really would like to see Itchy Pollen if you're Anthony. Anthony top decking that Ultra Ball, and he has that Dracloak in hand off that previous Dawn, so we're going to be able to see him draw a decent number of cards. If we can see the retreat this turn into a Badoo and potentially get an item or an energy drop onto one of these Dracloaks, I think we'll be in a very solid spot. Anthony needs to get Latias this turn in order to pull that off, or he needs to get Dusclops and pop that Dusclops. Go ahead and give up a prize. Limit Ben's draw off of those Lily's Determinations and put 5 damage counters in play. You probably don't want to give Absol Box or Mega Box damage counters just because they can use that terminal period, as we see on the bottom left of our screen. That says if your opponent's active Pokemon has exactly 6 damage counters on it, that Pokemon is knocked out. So you don't want to be giving Absol Box damage counters unless you're planning on doing something meaningful with them. We see that Luminous Energy attachment onto the Dragapult, arguably one of the best inclusions in Dragapult, and probably going to be the biggest card that Dragapult misses when we do rotate here at the beginning of April. Being able to attach a Rainbow Energy to your Dragapults, so that way you don't have to find exactly Fire plus Psychic. You can get any combination of Fire, Psychic, and Luminous, and makes things very simplistic for you. It makes your energy drops a lot easier to find, and makes things more easy to continue to build to a board state if you have those Luminous Energies. So that's going to be a huge loss come rotation. Anthony Ultra Balling away a Dusk Noir, and I can't tell what the other, I think it was a counter catcher, to go get that Badoo. We know we have the Latios in hand, so we're going to be able to go in with an Itchy Pollen this turn. You'd have liked to see that last turn if you're Anthony. Obviously didn't have the cards to get to it last turn. But Ben being able to hit the Lily's Determination off the Pokegear makes things a little bit, feel a little less great if you're Anthony. You would have liked that item lock earlier, make it to where Ben's kind of locked into having a 3-4 card hand with Penny in hand. But crucially, Badoo taking those damage counters with that risky Ruins, only having 10 HP left. Monkey Dory is going to be able to feast on that here if Ben can get a Pokemon that is not Dark type onto the bench to take risky Ruin damage, and if he can get a Monkey Dory plus Dark. You would like to not Claw of Darkness into a Badoo, but you can do what you have to do if you're Ben. Most likely what we'll see here is we're going to see that subjugating change, pushing that Absol into the active slot, going to take some poison, so it's going to be 10 damage between turns. We see the boss's orders on the Dracloak from Ben, Claw of Darkness, going ahead and taking a huge knockout on that Dracloak with an energy, and we are going to snipe either the Jamming Tower or the 2 Dragapults, and we are picking that Jamming Tower. Ben making a very heads-up play. Not really a point in taking out a Dragapult when your opponent has 2 in hand. Might as well take out the Jamming Tower, limits your Bravery Charm usage, and limits your Bravery Charm's effectiveness. That's one less counter we have to worry about as Ben. I also like the fact that Ben didn't put any Pokemon in play that he did not have to put in play. Not dropping the Latios when you don't really need it. Just makes it really easy for Anthony to take advantage of that. And if you're Ben, you're not too worried about the item lock per se. You kind of have everything you need at this moment. Anthony evolving into that Dusclops, using the Hilda. We're going to see a grab of an evolution Pokemon here, and most likely that Neo Upper Energy. Neo Upper Energy and Sparkling Crystal were the 2 aspects that Dragapult liked to waffle between. One providing that double rainbow energy in the Neo Upper Energy, and the Sparkling Crystal was basically reduced Terra Pokemon's attacks by 1 rainbow energy. It was kind of a back and forth between those 2 aspects, and it's kind of been figured out that Neo Upper Energy is just the better aspect. It allowed Dragapult to run the Jamming Towers like we saw Ben remove from Anthony's hand using that Claw of Darkness. In addition, there is significantly less special energy hate in format as there is tool hate. Gardevoir is a main proponent of that tool hate that we've seen in the past. Mainly because one of the main ways you would take extra prizes against Gardevoir is using things like Lost Vacuum or Jamming Tower to remove their tool cards and take extra prizes. But now, like with Special Energy, it's very hard to remove Special Energy from format. We do have things like Enhanced Hammer that don't see a significant amount of play, primarily seen in Alakazam, so that way they can remove those missed energies. But not something we typically see anywhere else in format. So no Enhanced Hammer really makes things easy for Dragapult to keep that Neo Upper Energy in play, and usually the only way it loses Neo Upper is via knockout. And Dragapult with 320 HP is not a thin Pokemon to go through. It is a very thick boy. Like I said, it is a hard Pokemon to just knock out. So that Neo Upper Energy gets a lot of usage. You typically get to swing with that Neo Upper Energy Dragapult 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a game, depending on how your opponent sets up. And in that amount of time, you've been able to preemptively attach energies to your Dracloaks. Maybe you started off by attaching energy to Dreepy, but you had a Latios in place, so you didn't have to retreat that energy cost off. So the energy drops in Dragapult are very important. But one of the main ways it gets to cheat that is that Neo Upper Energy, which we saw from Anthony, putting a ton of pressure on Ben early. Ben's hand was not fantastic. While large, it didn't quite have the pieces he needed. He needs Monkey Dories with dark energies. He needs things like Kangaskhan. He needs certain things in this deck in order for it to function and operate and take the win here against Dragapult. He really needs another Absol in play. We do see that Precious Trolley, so we're going to be able to get out as many Pokemon as we can fit on our bench. Precious Trolley, one of those big A-specs that came out, I believe, in Surging Sparks, and really took a deck like Terrapagos and took it to a new level. Pre-rotation, we had the Poison Donk Terrapagos that run the Baby Pecharunt. It ran Pecharunt. It ran Terrapagos. It ran Cloth, and it really used Poison to its greatest effect by using that Binding Mochi and really accelerating the amount of damage that Terrapagos could do. And Precious Trolley was the main driver behind that. You would usually Arven for Precious Trolley, and if you had Area 0 Underdips in play, you could fill your bench out to 8 if there was a Terra Pokemon in play, most likely Terrapagos. But we've seen Trolley kind of come in and out of certain decks. It's been in some of the more meme decks in format like Blissey EX. It's become a mainstay in a deck like Megabox. So Trolley has just kind of been one of those cool A-specs that can really warp and change how a format can operate. And we see a deck like Megabox, who just came off a massive win at the European International Championships and also had a massive win at the Champions League. I want to say this, but I want to say it correctly because I know I'm going to mess it up. I think it was Fukuoka, I think. Over 7,000 players have attended that tournament in Japan, and Megabox post-rotation dominated them all. It's just absolutely crazy to see Megabox be one of these decks that just becomes a tier 0 archetype, not really something that we expected pre-rotation. We kind of expected it to die pre-rotation, but it seems to be going strong. We get that the Precious Trolley out. Ben needing to put some damage counters into play on that Psyduck, on that Monkey Dory, and on that Kangaskhan. Just because Risky Ruins, like we mentioned earlier, puts those damage counters in play, and the Precious Trolley does not get around that. So we need to see some damage counters in play, things that Ben can use to throw back on Anthony's side of the board. Unfortunately for Ben, he's not going to be able to terminal period this turn, which is, I think, the main way of dealing with Dragapult if you are Megabox. I'm not the biggest Megabox knower. My ball knowledge when it comes to Megabox is kind of low compared to some other decks in format. My buddy Kevin is a huge fan of Megabox. Played it to Seattle, or he's going to play it to Seattle. He played it to London. Did very well. Started off hot. Started off, I believe, 4-0, and then unfortunately just kind of fizzled out as the day went on. He hit Ian Robb in the middle rounds, and that just kind of threw his whole day off. Anthony with another double Dragapult EX hand, which is hilarious because that's all 3 Dragapults in his hand over these last 2 turns. Absol taking another tick of poison damage. Anthony kind of in the driver's seat in this matchup right now. He's going to be able to knock out this Absol and go down to 3 prizes. And depending on his usage of this Dusclops, we could see a knockout on one of these benched 2-prizers, most likely the Pecharunt. That would be a huge 5-prize swing, and then we only have to deal with the Psyduck. The Psyduck being in play does make it where the Dusknoirs and the Dusclops can't be used at the moment. But we can go ahead and knock that out potentially here with this Dragapult. The Bravery Charm making it live with a significant amount of HP, though, is kind of interesting. I like the usage of the Bravery Charm in this situation. Typically, you throw it on the Mega Absol here, just that way it gets a little bit more survivability. But throwing it on the Psyduck is a play that we've seen other decks use in format, too. Things like Badoo has used Bravery Charm in the past. That way you can keep up some pressure with Item Lock and have a little bit more HP. We've also seen Bravery Charm get preemptively used on things like Pheasantipity and the Gardevoir Mirror. We've seen Bravery Charm used as kind of like this ultimate just survivability tool Anthony taking 3 huge prizes with the knockout of that Mega Absol. Ben kind of in a weird spot, no energy in play. All of his Pokemon require a few extra energies to get something going. I think this is the type of turn where Ben needs to use that counter catcher plus clutch off of Yveltal, which he has in hand. I think that's kind of the play that we need to try to line up this turn. Maybe clutch the Latias, maybe clutch something like that Dusclops, make things a little bit more difficult for Anthony to stay in this game. But Anthony right now currently in the driver's seat. It's very difficult when you have a Neo Upper Energy Dragapult sitting in the active slot. Crucially, Anthony not having another Dreepy in play, it's going to make things very difficult. If Ben can get this knockout, Anthony is just in that weird spot where we haven't really seen a Dreepy since those opening turns of the game. Got that Dark Energy down on Monkey Dory. And we're going to Adrenabrain off 30 damage off of the Psyduck, taking a knockout, going down to 4 prizes. Got that energy switch in hand, so there's still a situation where we could put Yveltal down and counter catcher up one of these Pokemon, whether it's the Latias or that Dusclops, and use clutch to keep them in the active slot to buy ourselves a few more turns. And I think that was the idea that Ben was going for, but unfortunately this Pokegear does not hit Boss's Orders or Arven. Unfortunately, we only hit that Lily's Determination or the Penny, both things that Will does not, or sorry, not Will, Ben does not need at this current moment. Looks like he's eyeing up taking the Penny regardless between the two. I think at this point it doesn't matter. Your initial lineup play was to get Arven or Boss's Orders so that you can counter catcher and clutch something, or Boss's Orders and clutch something. But without either of those supporters, we're kind of up a creek without a paddle. Taking that Penny. Yeah, and unfortunately for Ben, there's not much he can do in this situation. Mega Kangaskhan does survive a hit, so we do have that. The Dragapult sprinkles are going to be a little bit annoying to deal with as well. That would actually knock out the Monkey Dory if Anthony chose to use that Phantom Dive and sprinkle onto that Monkey Dory. So that would be another prize card for Anthony, and then he would be going down to 2. Yeah, and unfortunately, Ben's hand just doesn't have much. We see the drop of the Monkey Dory, taking some risky Ruins damage. We can E-switch off of our one Monkey Dory onto the other Monkey Dory, so that way we can move more damage counters over. Yeah, we're going to see that E-switch, moving that Dark Energy from the one Monkey Dory to the other Monkey Dory. And we're going to use Adrenabrain again to heal off the Monkey Dory that had the 5 damage counters on it to put them onto Duskull. Duskull surviving that Monkey Dory damage. I wasn't quite sure based off the dice we saw if it had 30 HP or not. It appears it had 20 with the Risky Ruins, and that's it. So there's 10 damage counters left on that Duskull. We'll be able to knock that out next turn if we're Ben using Adrenabrain. Using this Iono here, pushing Anthony's hand down to low, only getting 3 cards. If Ben can somehow knock out this Dragapult in the next couple of turns and limit the amount of damage that Dragapult can do. Ooh, and Ben with the E-Hammer, that is a huge pull off of that Iono. And we're going to E-Hammer away the Neo Upper Energy. This is massive. This could be the play that swings the game. Hitting that E-Hammer, knocking out that Neo Upper Energy. Anthony has no way of getting 2 energy in on that Dragapult this turn. I don't even think he has an energy in hand. So the fact that not only is Ben not worried about Phantom Dive, there's a chance that Ben's not worried about Jet Headbutt off of this Dragapult. Anthony here really debating on what he's got. I think his hand is very rough. I think there's just a Dreepy. Can't tell what the other 2 cards are in his hand. And we see the Buddy Poppin come down, most likely just going to thin the deck, reshuffle that deck just because you know you just got Iono. There's probably some good cards on the bottom of the deck that you wanted. Namely, that Boss's Orders was at the bottom of the deck. That could have won Anthony the game if that Neo Upper Energy had survived the E-Hammer. Crucially, the E-Hammer coming out of left field. Was not expecting that. Talking with Ben before, he told me it was a mixture of a few mega box lists that he saw, but he didn't mention anything about an enhanced hammer coming down, which I'm surprised to see it, but I think it's a fantastic inclusion. And honestly, I agree. I do like seeing Dragapult struggle a little bit. Dragapult has been the bane of my existence at a few cups. I will never forget when I was playing against my buddy Brendan, who was playing Dragapult. And in the span of 3 minutes, he managed to knock out all of my Ralts and Curlia in play without playing a single supporter just because of Dusclops, Countercatcher, Dusknoir. It was disgusting. I still struggle with that thought to this day. We see the run errands here off of the Mega Kangaskhan's ability, drawing a couple cards. Looks like we saw another penny and we saw another lot, or we see the Latias come back into the hand. Ben's hand has kind of looked the same all throughout the game. Earlier, he had the Latias plus Cornerstone Ogerpon. It looks like he has it again this turn. We're going to use Adrenabrain, putting 30 damage onto that Dreepy up to 50 damage. Now, there is a play where Ben could penny up the Monkey Doria that has the dark and put that dark energy back into hand and then reattach that dark energy onto Monkey Dory and reuse Adrenabrain. And that's exactly what we're seeing. We're going to Adrenabrain heal off that Pecharunt. Where are we putting this 30 damage at? Are we putting it on a Dreepy to knock it out? We're going to put it on a Duskull to knock it out? Or are we going to put it on the other Dreepy to put it at 50 damage? That is a big question mark for Ben. Where is this damage going? And it looks like we were putting it on the other Dreepy to put the Dreepy, the other Dreepy, and the Duskull all at 50 damage, all certainly well within reach of game here for Ben. Not game. 3 prizes for Ben. For some reason, I thought Ben was down to 3, but it's Anthony who's at 3. Anthony really struggling here with his hand. No energy in play. This Dragapult stuck in the active slot. You see Anthony shaking his head, being like, dude, that Iono plus the E-Hammer was absolutely brutal. How could you do it to me, man? I thought we were friends. Anthony's still looking like he is really debating on what play he wants to do. He actually top-decked the Psychic Energy, going to Jet Headbutt the active Kangaskhan, putting it up to 90 damage. Ben being able to heal that off with Monkey Dory, not completely, but at least partially, to make things a little bit more difficult for Anthony. And then Ben running errands into double Arven. You know, Arven was one of the best cards revealed in Scarby base. It had seen play all throughout the Scarlet Violet era. Got reprinted in Obsidian Flames. And ever since has just been that card. Whenever tools switch from being item cards into their own subset of trainer cards, Arven was the main driver in us being able to use our tools effectively. We've seen a multitude of different uses for Arven. We've seen it in Gardevoir. We've seen it in Charizard for a little bit when it was Charizard Pidgeot, especially in the early stages of Obsidian Flames Meadow. It was the backbone of Evozard with Bibarel. Arven has transformed Goldingo into this really aggressive beat stick with Lunarock and Solrock and Lunatone. Like, it is just really transformed a lot of decks. And outside of Iono, it's probably the best supporter that we've seen in the Scarlet Violet era. So between Arven and Iono, it's going to be a sad day when both of these cards rotate. Rotation coming up here in the next few weeks and months. I believe April, I think it's the first week in April or second week in April when we officially rotate. It's very, very sad. It's going to be sad when both of them are gone. But, you know, well, the best part about Pokemon is the fact that this game rotates. We're able to see so many different cards, so many different strategies. Ben using double Monkey Dory to take a double KO, going down to those 2 prizes. Rotation is the week after Orlando. Awesome. Yeah, I knew. So I know Ascended Heroes becomes officially play legal on March 6th, but I couldn't remember the exact date of rotation. I do know it is sometime in April, though. I think Orlando's April 12th, 11th, something around there. I can't remember exactly. I know Orlando's usually in early April in general. I think it was in early April 2 years ago. Perfect. April 10th. I was like, I knew it started with, I knew it was a 2-digit number, but I couldn't remember if it was the 10th, 11th, or 12th. Been here with the Xerosic Machinations in hand. A couple other cards in hand here. I think the big issue with this game right now is Anthony not having multiple energies on this Dragapult. If Anthony can get a fire energy in play, then I think that's going to spell a little bit of a disaster for Ben. And Orlando's Easter weekend, perfect. Yeah, like I know in the past it's usually like that first, second weekend of April is usually when they do Orlando. I think during Paradox Rift meta, I think it was that second weekend in Orlando. So it being in the first weekend in Orlando kind of makes sense. I wonder if they're just doing the same convention center that they did a few years ago too. It was a really beautiful place. I kind of want to go back to Orlando. I was going to sign up for Orlando this year, but I lost track of time and I just said, don't worry about it. I'll just go to Indianapolis here at the end of May. I think Indianapolis is May 29th to the 31st, if I remember correctly. We see that attachment of the energy onto that Pecharunt. Irritated Outburst is a huge attack in this matchup, being able to do 60 damage for every prize card that is taken. So if Anthony goes down to one prize, that is a even 300 damage coming off of that Pecharunt EX. We see Ben using that Arven, going to grab Energy Switch. I think he's out of tools in the deck, so we're not grabbing a tool here, just grabbing that Energy Switch. Most likely moving the energy onto the Pecharunt. Yeah, and I think here, I think all Ben has to do is get this Pecharunt into the active slot, and that will be game. That Irritated Outburst currently doing 180 damage. Dragapult has 200 on it, so we should see an Irritated Outburst for game if we can get this Pecharunt into the active slot. We're taking another knockout here with Adrenabrain. See the energy switch, moving that energy over to the Pecharunt. And do we have a way to move? And we're seeing another Adrenabrain here, moving those damage counters on to the Dusclops. Let's see, can Ben find the pieces to get this Kangaskhan out of the active slot this turn? I think that's the question. I don't think he has a way of moving this turn because Pecharunt can't move himself. And unfortunately, he has to... let's see, he's using that run errands. And he finds the penny. We're picking up that penny, or we're using that penny to pick up that Kangaskhan, and that is the game here for Ben. That was a great matchup between both of our players here tonight here at Impact. Phenomenal job by both of our players. We saw Ben really take his time and really try to figure out what he can do to just make sure the game is in his hands after that Absol went down. We saw the slowly moving with the Iono plus the E-Hammer. We saw the Pecharunt slowly get built up over time to the point to where Irritated Outburst was doing just enough damage to knock out that Dragapult. It was really interesting to see. I wish that we would have been able to see Pecharunt use that subjugating chains to get something in the active slot and remove it. But, you know, I don't think he really cares as long as you take the dub, you know? Yeah, Scott, we're running with a double mic tonight, mainly because I don't remember which one works and which one doesn't work. So we're going with both. Can't go wrong if both of them are in your face, right? But yeah, shout out to both of our players. Anthony, phenomenal job. I think the E-Hammer plus Iono was a little bit too much for him to overcome here in that mid to late game. Ben piloting Megabox, as we saw the EOIC winner and the Fukuoka winner, absolutely just doing a phenomenal job here tonight at Impact Gaming Center. Megabox becoming that tier 0 deck that we all thought it could become. I almost feel like Ted Lasso with the double mics in front of me. I'm answering all the questions that the chat has. But yeah, so shout out to Ben, shout out to Anthony, two phenomenal players, giving us a wonderful Tuesday night round one, letting us celebrate Pokemon and celebrate Pokemon Day here a little bit early here at Impact Gaming Center. Pokemon Day is this Friday. So if you want to celebrate Pokemon Day, you can go to your local game stores. You can go hang out and spend time with your friends celebrating 30 years of Pokemon. We are doing our Pokemon Day here tonight at Impact because Tuesday is our main Pokemon night. So all of our players are going to be getting a stamped Bulbasaur, basically just with a little play stamp on it. You've probably seen that promo floating around on things like Poke Beach and things like that. I believe they're also doing some product giveaway for the winner. I believe. I don't know if it's a raffle. I don't know if it's like placement or like a winnings that you can get. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know all the details. I was kind of told, hey, last minute, it's Pokemon Day. Because I didn't know if it was gonna be this Tuesday or next Tuesday that we were gonna celebrate it. So shout out to our players here tonight, getting to celebrate Pokemon Day with us, and you guys get to celebrate it with me here in the booth. Also, quick shout out to celebrate Pokemon Day. If you want to buy singles and sealed product, Impact Gaming Center is your place for that in store and online. We have anything you could possibly think of. We have EXs, we have GXs, we have Vs, we have full art supporters, we have vintage, whatever you can think of. Impact Gaming Center has it. We are going to be hanging out here for 3 more rounds together. I'll figure out what we got on stream coming up here in the next few rounds. So if you guys want to hang out here while I go out and try to figure out what the next round's going to be so I can figure out what matchups we can get you, I would greatly appreciate it. We'll see you guys here in a second, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on Tuesday night and on our Pokemon Day celebration. Thanks.